Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eric Mashinsky, the editor here at Gold Investment Letter. Today is October 15th. It's a Wednesday at around noon Chicago time. And I'm going to give an update on a number of things, but I'm going to keep this condensed. So this isn't going to be like a thorough report on any one company, but it is important to check in because obviously we've seen quite a bit of action. I just wanted to mention, for those of you that have been around for a while with GIL, um, thanks for sticking around. We had a rough market there for 4 years. It was basically from August of 2020 up until very recently. I mean, I'll call it a 5 year bear market in the mini juniors because we've just started to see some of the organic capital flows come into the lowest part of the market. Literally in the last week and a half, have I seen dozens of very junior sort of, just surviving. Some of these companies we helped survive through the bear winter. We continued to finance companies this entire time when a lot of other people couldn't, raise money or didn't want to allocate money. And even if it was just chipping away with like our core elite and some of our premium members, we've done a lot of private placements in the last few years that I think were critical. We'll look back on some of those as we've had with other really big success stories in the past. But one of the things that I want to mention here today is I'm going to give you an update on a few of the companies that I do cover in the free e-letter, some important ones, and maybe just briefly talk a little bit about some of the ones that have skyrocketed and just point those out, but also what do you do, what do you do from here? So the the big thing though in this update, and you're going to see it in the email, I can't encourage you guys enough at this point because the train has left the station. All right. When there is a bull market of the sort that we are now clearly in, it is going to be a gnarly ride, but it is going to be one in which if you can navigate it to a good solid degree, uh, and know how to do that, you can change your life wealth wise. You can change your financial profile. If you're already wealthy, you can take it to another level in stuff like this. And or the big challenge for me for years in the past was riding stuff all the way up and then all the way down the back. I don't do that anymore. Okay. That doesn't happen anymore. Thank the Lord, because I've learned some lessons and I've had some really good on the job training with, being able to sell into bubbles, how to sell into bubbles, what type of percentages to take off the plate, when to step in and buy on pullbacks, and or what I think I am pretty good at. You would see this way more if you're a premium or elite member, even just a premium member. Like I've got to tell you guys, um, I'm happy for anybody that even listens to what I have to say and puts your hard-earned money to work in the market. But it's another thing, especially some of you have made a lot of money on some of these ideas here. You look at like Cypherpunk, Soul Strategies. I know there are dozens and dozens, if not over 100 free e-letter members that watch that thing go from 12 cents to $6.12 last August until this past January. And I've seen a lot of comments, people that really made a lot of money. And my thing is like, now we're going to go through a list of some of the ones that are popping that I've featured for you guys this year. And if you're in the money, like what's 1,500, 1,400 bucks? That's for a year of premium. You can do a 6 month deal. I think it's $777. Like, what you don't know is what you're missing. And that's what I just wanted to mention. And I wanted to give you guys an inclination of that at this key juncture, because I just, there's still a lot of opportunities. So the thing that I mentioned that I think I'm pretty good at is finding the next waves of companies and stocks that will move after we see these like explosive moves in a bunch of different stuff. These things happen in waves. So it's not always necessarily like going down the rung to the juniors, but the juniors are where we do see stuff that has started to explode. I'll put some examples of that from premium, because our premium and elite members, I mean, I've gotten texts in the last week just like, wow, dude, like my account has never been, I've never been worth this much money in my life. Like they're getting nervous about it. So I love hearing that stuff, but I also then my role is to do a couple of things. One is to remind people about frameworks for taking money off the table, when to raise cash, what are the signs to do that, and when. Position sizing is a big part of that. Risk management, portfolio management. I'm not a financial advisor anymore, but I talk about these things from an investor psychology standpoint that I think ends up, it could be the difference for a lot of people to come out of this thing and score an 8, 9, or 10 by sticking a double twist, running gymnast prop up move, or basically having a flying what is it? The flying Lindy, and everybody's impressed while you're in the air, and then you end up breaking your legs. That's my goal here, is to help people land after making tremendous amounts of gains in an area that we know inside and out. And now the world is coming to us. This is not going to happen again like this ever again in history, from undercapitalized metals and mining to like all of a sudden critical minerals and gold and silver with the way that they're moving, and some of the rare earth elements and even commodities. Now all of a sudden the world's waking up to these problems that we have. I've been watching this coming for over 15 years. Some of us have done that together and wondered, when is it all going to come together? Well, it's coming together now. And if you don't get in the middle of it, you're going to miss like the biggest opportunity ever. And I wish, and I hope, and I thank some of you that took action during the last, year and a half with planting seeds and buying things. I remained very bullish before this gold market took off, and especially right after it did. Going on a year and a half ago when gold broke that 2100 on the monthly. Hopefully some of you guys took advantage of that with just, I saw it really clearly. We were going for a big ride. I still don't know exactly where gold is going, but with it at 4,000 versus us struggling at 1,500 and 1,900 for a long time, over a decade, big difference, big difference. So we're seeing some of that activity in things. Hopefully a lot of you are enjoying International Tower Hill. It hit over $3 a share USD today. That stock, and I'm just going to put, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some charts in the email body for you guys to get an idea, a little bit of the variation and some of the companies that premium and elite members have had access to. And the elites, you can tack on the fact that some of these deals, we've had private placements with warrants that make it even much more profitable. Something like a Focus Mining that we did a couple of years ago at 4 cents with a 6-cent 5-year warrant. That's at 18, 19. It went to 20, it was a year maybe after we did that deal. So with warrants, you're 5x on your stock and another 4.5x on the warrant. It can add quite a bit. That's the real, I think, foundational kicker for elite investors. We've got the sweetest private placement, the cheapest private placement that's already up 100%, that I'm placing right now with some of my long-term holders. And if you end up jumping on, I'll take one person that goes and signs up for the annual elite. If you're an accredited individual and you want to start getting into the private placement world, or you have and you just want some deal flow, the issue that we have with it is that there's just usually not enough to go around, but small allocations and stuff that explode and are completely structured in our favor, valuations in our favor, everything else. You can have, a $25,000, $50,000 allocation where normally you'd like 250 or 500. But it turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like 10 grand to get into the elite is nothing. I can just drop bags of money in people's lap like I'm doing with this placement. First person that joins elite today from free, I will give you at least enough of an allocation in this new private placement to, I believe, make up for what you're paying in the elite, and probably for years. But in any event, and or if you want to come back, that's another thing. Some of you guys that have been an elite and then just kind of squandered with the bad market or whatever, I had gotten sick. If you want to come back, please do. But we've got THM where I focus on some of the circles in that chart that I'm going to put in the body of the email, because elite members starting last December had 2 months of me every week saying, buy THM, buy THM. This is the time to accumulate a massive position, between 45 and 60 cents US. So a lot of people did that because I was so repetitive. You couldn't not get me out of your face. And my conviction was so high. So the elites, a lot of them got the best prices. Some of them waited until it started to run, just like human nature tends to do sometimes. But in any event, then we went to premium members and they had carte blanche for 2 months. A lot of that, there was one bounce up to like 70, 75 cents, but the rest of it was like 2 months of being able to accumulate that thing at 55, 65 cents. Now at almost $3 a share, and the volume yesterday was substantial, 6 million shares. I think it was over 16 million that I calculated in volume in one day on THM. So that thing is starting to do what I had mentioned, which is it's going to become an institutional hedge fund darling in the gold mining space. So hopefully some of you are enjoying that run. We also had the recent, I did the recent recommendation of the palladium ETF, which looks like now, because that was around $100 when I was talking about that for even you guys, because it's very liquid, so it's not a big deal to like reveal a junior that it's tough to tell everybody about, because you have to leak it out and get people a chance to have time to accumulate it because they're not as liquid. But yeah, that's up 40% in a very short period of time. The SILJ, which I've talked about here, I'm up 100% on that in my portfolio. SLV, which I started pounding the table on silver right after it broke $35. Now we're over 50. And silver, in my opinion, FYI, I think silver goes to $150 to $200 in this cycle, and probably does so within 18 months, 24 months. It's going to fly. It's just getting started. This is a brand new breakout of something that was a high in the 1980 timeframe and 2011, and now we're just getting rolling. Silver's going to play a lot of catch up. Mux, which we had some issues with for a couple of years, but started to really accumulate that back when Rob ran into some operational issues and we had a bear market. I always have been a consistent proponent of Mux, and we ended up buying in 2022. By the way, if you look at my X account, Gold Invest LTR, I pinned a tweet from October 2022 that said, this is probably the bottom. It's a generational buying opportunity in miners. I can already hear the I woulda, coulda, shoulda. That was the bottom month in the mining pullback, where you even had Mux, for example, touching, yes, under $3. Now it's $21. So thank God for that. Even Lithium Americas, that we had some stops on that were hit, but stuck with that. Talked about that numerous times, around $3 recently, just went to 10. And then we've got First Majestic, which has certainly been at least a double since I've talked about it publicly. But I'm going to share with you guys in the email. Just check it out if you're open-minded about getting more ideas and paying some money. This is my business. This is what I do for a living. I just want to mention, though, that I really, I'm very lucky in that I don't have to do this anymore. And I think what's going to end up potentially happening is I want to see through, for the people that have backed me and have been loyal. I want to see through this bull cycle to a large degree and make sure that people are set as best as I can do to help with that. And then I might not be a newsletter writer in the near future. I just don't know. I mean, maybe I'll probably keep some hand in the pot, but you're not going to get active things like now, where we're just, we're pouncing on this idea, on this environment, pouncing. And so I would invite you to join us. I'm just going to put some examples. There's things since August that have gone up 300 to 500% in a lot of these little plays, at least doubles. And there was an email I put out called the buffet of ideas to premium and elite members. And it's a lot of big gains. And so there are more coming in the ones that we then focus on after these start to hit. We don't chase those stocks. We go and we look at what are the ones that are next. Okay. And so what I do want to talk about is briefly Phenom Resources. People have been disappointed, obviously, because that thing had had some rough goes here in recent months when everything else started to pick up. And for real reason, we had a lull in drilling, and we're waiting on this, the Dobbin permit and stuff like that. They're drilling at Crescent Valley right now, by the way. But Phenom, I just put another $112,000 in the private placement that closed last week. And I believe this company and the stock, the people that are still around we're in it to win it. So there's not a ton of stock to buy. There's certainly very little to buy in the 20s Canadian anymore, if any. We're back above the 200-day moving average at 30 cents Canadian. I'll just say this. What I saw in the last Friday and Monday and yesterday, vanadium stocks. What is the one? There's Largo, huge volume flows. They just did a punitive financing, so the stock got smashed. But besides that, like CTV is a vanadium play. That these are the juniors. So you got organic money that came into this thing since September, 5 cents, hit 50 2 days ago. You've got little teeny like VRB, financial troubles, whatever. They raised a little money to survive, 13 cents to 42 cents yesterday. And then so Phenom started to see organic buying a little bit on Friday and then Monday and a bit yesterday. But this is a sign that the vanadium side of things, even though vanadium hasn't gone up like lithium or other battery metals or critical minerals or gold recently in their spot markets, but this is telling me that is coming as well. And I'm very bullish on vanadium, and nobody's talking about this yet. I'm going to be revealing some updates on the vanadium adoption side in the market. And these redox flow batteries are the answer, the primary answer for industrial grade battery metals. So Phenom, with the largest vanadium asset in North America at Carlin, their technology on producing vanadium and nickel out of petroleum coke ash, their stake in MK Plus out of Japan, that is a solid state vanadium battery. That is one of the best, if not the best, story as its own in the vanadium space. Then we've got monster prospects in Nevada for gold. The worst case scenario there is we have to wait a bit until next spring or whatever to get the final permits for Dobbin. Looks like to me this could make Phenom a $5 stock in the future, but we just might have to wait for that driver. Again, this will be split into two companies when the time is right. But I'm not, this is where, you guys, it's like doing the counterintuitive thing. When Phenom is weak, you should buy it. That's what I do. And then when it's flying and it's strong, take a little bit off the table. But Phenom now is one of the cheapest plays. Certainly when you've got the gold vanadium combo, I am very bullish, and I think we've seen the lows. That's it for now. And Phenom should be accumulated, by those of you that still are around, or if you're new, this is my biggest position, most money I've ever put in any company ever. And I actually, I have some ideas and things that we're working on to get expedited permitting, to get potential grant money from the government, to also look at beefing up superstar management to get deals done and things of that nature, the board, all that stuff. This is the one deal where, if I can help a little bit on a hands-on basis, I do and will. So Metallis has been a huge flyer, but if you got to realize too, guys, Metallis, I've been talking about this since the teens here. in the spring, and then we exploded to 50 cents. Now we're at 41. They're about less than 2 weeks away from Greyhound drilling in Idaho assays starting to come out, which I am expecting fully are going to be very high grade silver intercepts, antimony, which is a big component of this, gold and zinc. And I still believe Metallis could be one of, if not the most exciting new discoveries in the world for silver, primarily ultra high grade silver and antimony and gold. And what a time to discover a new whatever, however big it's going to be. It's going to be very robust, and Greyhound is extremely encouraging. I've showed pieces of rock. I've gone to Idaho last month. I've gotten feedback on what's happening with the drilling, even though we don't know until the assays are out. But I do know that I have very little concern, where a lot of times I will make it clear if a drill program is high risk that you could end up coming up with duds. I just don't see that happening here. I see this really giving a new era of life and enthusiasm to people that are going to see hard results on Metallis. And then even like one of my bigger losers over the years has been Giga. And I just want to mention that the last three private placements I put money in, including this last one, which I believe was 8 cents. And there's new CEO. Some of these nickel stocks started to make a big move, and Giga did double off its lows, but it's now consolidating. I think it is extremely cheap. The Turnigan asset hasn't gone anywhere. That's the thing. Nickel hasn't moved up a bunch, but it hasn't gone lower either. And there's a huge potential copper element to Turnigan that I think could be, if nickel stays somewhat flat, say in 2026, the copper exploration and or high grade nickel drilling in certain pockets, because they've had this reviewed by third party experts. There are so many crazy targets to throw on top of a 40-year mine life, which is a massive, clean sulfide deposit that could produce so much for a long period of time. It is a big capex, but there are technologies now too that can end up coming down, and there just aren't Turnigans laying around out there. And when you've got still this type of a market cap, it's a joke. It's at 13 cents right now, and we're trading at like a 10-11 million-dollar market cap. This, then you've got Canadian nickel, and look at, there's another one that's FPX, which is not sulfide. It's like the dirtier kind of nickel, but they still get the same spot price. But that thing's gone from 24 to 54 cents in the last month. And, Giga hasn't had that type of a breakout yet. It's going to, and I think it's going to go a lot higher. So if you still own that, or if you're looking for a play that hasn't really popped yet, Giga, I still like, and I'm heavier in it than I've ever been. And a lot of my position, because I did get in too early, I'm still down 30, 40, 50% on paper. So you can get in a lot cheaper than me. The last one I wanted to feature for today, one thing that you've got to have exposure to is the uranium space, the nuclear renaissance, which we truly are going into, and all the way connected down to the speed of development and adoption of AI needs compute power, and nuclear is going to be a big proponent and a big source of that energy. That's why you're seeing companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're building and investing in their own nuclear reactors. And so these smaller deals with very predictable ISR, in situ resource, water-based flushing towards surface of producing uranium, which are all over the US, versus necessarily going very deep, which you can, have a lot of success with too. If you go in the Athabasca region in Canada, for example, a lot more expensive to develop that. And for some of you that remember, one of the biggest winners in GIL history was Encore Energy, which I identified 2000, late 16, 17. We bought that stock for a year and a half, starting at 5 cents up to 12. We did a big cross. It went to 18. It came all the way back down to 4 or 5 cents. continue to buy it before it ended up going to $2.27 equivalent on a 3-for-1 split. Some of us had warrants. It was a massive win, and that was based on the same protocol that Strathmore plus Uranium is putting into place in likely the friendliest state to do this type of project in Wyoming. Their Agate asset and a lot of the recent success in their drilling program has beefed up and expanded the size of this Agate. There's another drill program that's funded coming up, and the market cap is nothing on this deal. It's run by Dev Randhawa, who I think it was in January or December prior. He ended up closing. Fission Uranium was sold for it was $1.1 billion Canadian in stock to Paladin. And now, him running a smaller ISR deal like this with barely over a $10 million market cap at 30 cents Canadian, this company, I believe, is going to probably have a fairly short life because it will be acquired. And I think there's a good chance it gets acquired within the next 12 months. And this stock was a buck, year before last, and has had a big decline. We've bought up a ton of it in elite and premium. It's a huge position for us. And if you're looking for a uranium stock that, is just cheap and unique and solid, and it's not even close to overbought, I think you would want to look into SUU in Canada, SUUFF in the US, and take a peek at this bad boy, because that Agate project alone, they've got other projects, that is going to be, I think, 5-10 million pounds, which isn't massive, but it's pretty easy to see it getting there. And then you're looking at least like $10 a pound uranium for a purchase, which, is like, even on the low end of that stuff, you're talking about 4x from here. And I think they'll be able to get a deal done, do the right thing. Dev's got a lot of experience in this. There have been numerous spinouts from Fission. They've been in this game for a long time, and I love Strathmore. He has a bigger company, F3, that I just passed on because it's very mature already. A lot of stock out there. I've decided to sink my teeth into Strathmore. So those of you that are looking for a great uranium play, I would encourage you to check out Strathmore. So that's it for today. I'm gonna just list, like I said, some of these picks that have gone out in the last 6 months, and you can see for yourself. If you were a premium and or elite member, you're getting this stuff, and you are getting reminded regularly to buy them, so that it's just not like a one-off mention, because I do really take a lot of responsibility, and it's like a privilege where people pay me something for what I offer, and I do my best to over deliver on that, make sure that I'm, making myself as clear as possible. Even sophisticated investors have trouble buying when they should, selling when they should, waiting too long after hearing me talk about something for a year, but it's not moving. So they bought it and sold it, buy something else is moving quicker. A lot of that is just stupid rookie activity, but it happens across any of these areas. So it doesn't mean that you're going to guaranteed, if you have character defects in your trading and investing psyche, that you're going to make a fortune, but you're going to be given opportunities to do so. And they're going to be given in a way that are followed up on, clarified. And there are so many more opportunities. I'll be putting a feature out later today and tomorrow on some of our venture cap portfolio companies that were under 5 million market cap, that I've been focusing on for the last year and a half, and just exploded. Metallis, by the way, re-entered that venture cap portfolio at 4.5 cents. That's where we started focusing on that. If you were a premium elite member, you would have seen Metallis come back on there and have those opportunities to be buying it at 6, 7, 8, 10, 15, whatever, before it's gone to 50, and before it, who knows, goes to $3 to $5. Anyway, that's it for today. And I hope you guys are making a lot of money out there. This is the time to be doing it. And if you just want another source, if you're a pro or whatever, where you're going to get some solid ideas, both big and small, I try to mix that up so that some of our family offices and institutional members, that can't take advantage of these really tiny market cap deals very much, that we have various things that we go into that are listed companies, ETFs, leap stock option trades, things of that nature that we've been having a tremendous amount of success on recently after a long slug. And this cycle that we're in, though, guys, like, it ain't over. We could and should see at some point fairly soon a pretty abrupt shakeout and consolidation in gold and the miners and things like that. That's to be expected. But, are you making money along the way, setting aside some cash for when that day comes? For then the real kicker of what will end up being a very crazy bubble because of the circumstances, which are absolutely, the environment is perfect for metals and mining companies and stocks and the commodities and precious metals and critical metals themselves to just keep bids in that are underpinning this market and going higher, because those of us that lock up and stuck through this bad market are really saying to ourselves, look, you guys weren't here before. We helped these companies survive. We know their assets are worth way more than what these companies are trading at. And some of the juniors that I'm featuring, like today, tomorrow, and some of the rolling stuff in premium, these are things that you guys could step in and buy cheaper than I own them before they explode 10, 20 times. I'm not kidding. And it will happen because it always happens at GIL. It just depends on the dearth of time. But right now, especially when we have other ones that are doing just that, and then the next tranche or two that we focus on, it's going to happen. So it's not too late, but I think it will be too late where I'm going to be, and I'm not doing any discounts or anything like that anymore. If anything, you're going to see one of two things. If you don't join, probably what happens is either the price raises from here because we're making so much money with people and for people, or we just cut off and we limit the amount of people. I think I've got 4 slots that I can give for the elite membership, and then that's done. That goes to a waiting list, and that probably won't reopen until this market, while this market is so hot, because everybody's just crushing it. And then the premium, we have a good chunk I could still manage in there. But like I said, if it starts to feel like it's too big and we can't, people are losing their edge being premium to buy some of the juniors because they start taking off when I put something out, I'll pause that. So you don't even have an opportunity necessarily, or a guarantee, I should say, next year to be able to join these services. So I would hope that some of you take me up on it today. Cheers.